evening. The Get Out and Grow are in the building. Get Out and Grow crew, I mean to say that. The Get Out and Grow crew are in the building. It's not an easy thing to say. Try it yourself at home, perhaps with the aid of a safety net. And when I say they're in the building, perhaps they're in the potting shed. Lee, no, you're indoors, aren't you now? Is it getting too cold to be outside in the cold now, Lee?
I'm on the balcony in Coluge.
On the balcony in Coluge, of course you are. Anna, where are you this evening? In Devon?
Yes, in Devon. It's. I think it's actually temporary. Well, I say temporarily. My smart speaker's saying it's still raining. It sounds like it's quieting down a bit out there, but it was raining earlier. So yeah, staying warm, staying dry.
Well done, excellent stuff. And how about you, John? How are you this evening?
Same, to be honest. I mean, we're probably about a couple of miles or a mile and a half from each other, aren't we, Anna? I should think. But yeah, Devon.
Bit drizzly and mizzly.
Bit drizzly and cold, and but it's November, so that's fine.
That's right. And on that note, we've been talking behind the scenes, haven't we? Things are getting a little bit quiet, aren't they, in the garden, of course. People going out there when they absolutely have to, rather than enjoying themselves all day long in the garden. Apart from Lee, of course, who's a professional and finds himself in the garden. Where have you been? Have you been out at work in the garden or somebody's garden today, Lee?
I've been out doing quotes today. I did a bit of wood chopping. I cut my own grass. I cut our own grass.
Yes.
Cleaned the machines off because they were filthy. Just a bit of housekeeping.
Bit of housekeeping yourself there. Okay, excellent stuff. But I think it is fair to say, isn't it? This is a quiet time of year, and it might be that we do some of our specials and focus a little bit away from actual active growing and being in the garden to some of the more to some of the other aspects of gardening. So we may well consider those next week when we take our week off to have a team meeting. And then for the rest of the year, think about doing some specials. We might talk to Bath City Farm. We're in touch with them, talking to them about whether they'd like to be on the show. Phil, one of our regulars, Phil, had a suggestion for us. He when I was with him the other evening at a charity fundraiser quiz with the Silver Coast Volunteers here in Portugal, he was saying, yeah, with this Get Out and Grow thing, is it possible that at any time of year, something needs planting, something needs pruning, something needs harvesting? So maybe we could have a little feature each week about what that might be. Does that sound like a good idea to you, Lee?
Yeah, it definitely does. It is. There is something to be done every week. There's always something that needs doing.
All right.
And, so yeah, you can always find something to prompt gardeners every week. Definitely.
Very good. Okay, so perhaps Phil could say more if Phil is in with us tonight, which he's not yet, but he may well be later on. We've got Matty's here. Matty's been absent from the scene recently, but he was on the morning show this morning and he's with us this evening. So it's Boa noite from Matty, as well as Paul, Louise and Lottie. Mainly Louise, I think. Is Morris with you still, Louise? Pete's in as well with a Boa noite. Matty's Boa noite growers. And Pete's saying over there in oh no, he's looking at you and saying, looking pretty chilly there, Lee. Pick question: our veg garden is a little overgrown. Any tips for spotting hidden garlic, pots and beetroot? We'll come back to that because that is a lovely question. And quick, not pick. Okay, well, it works both ways, I think, that, Pete. And brilliant idea. I'm not sure who's saying brill idea. That could be John, who I think would like to add this as well. Is that you, John, saying brill idea?
Is he muted again?
You muted, John.
Sorry, what? Oh, yes, my yes. So
I heard that,
not paying attention. So if you forgot to let the awesome Anna know about your question, or have only just thought of one, let us know here.
Yes,
in the comments, but not here in my.
Is that you there, John?
That's not me. I don't know who that is. I'll go and have a look at who that is.
Okay, disclose yourself if you will. You don't have to, but you're also saying Bondi as well. Could be Fiona, that one. So maybe a Get Out and Grow calendar as well, eternal calendar, which will be a kind of roughly speaking thing, because things do change a little bit. But roughly speaking, we could do something like that, which goes alongside Phil's idea quite nicely, couldn't it? And slowly build that up over the year, and then come back to it from the first time we started, which would be really nice. Eternal, so no days, just numbers. That all said, we do have some questions tonight, so we will cover those, and we will also look at this. Facebook users saying bon dia and bon noite. I think these are different people, perhaps, this evening. But yes, we do have some questions, and Anna, our question monitor, is all over it. I think we're possibly with a question from Katie, whose first cheeky question to me tonight is, can you promise to be done before the football? Can we do that? No, we can't.
No, we can't.
No interest in football.
I'm going to. Well, I'm not interested in the football anyway, but I'll be watching something else once this is finished.
All right, but 7 o'clock will be our finish time, right? Because you like to
If
finish.
you were playing on the street there, I'd close the blinds.
Oh, Lee.
And I'd call the police and complain about the noise.
Oh,
You're-
come on.
You're with me then, Lee. You're not interested in football either.
Oh,
Not
it's
at all,
once
no.
every 4 years, you two. Come on, get over yourselves. Okay, it's Portugal. Portugal at 7 o'clock tonight. Football? Question mark. Who is playing and why? Okay, maybe gardening and football don't have an overlapping Venn diagram. Although I must say I have kicked a few cabbages about in a vegetable patch. Perhaps I shouldn't own up to that. Quiet time of the year, says Louise, taking apart my suggestion. Been busy picking and pruning the pomegranates, then making pomegranate jelly jam today. Paula started. All right. Okay. So it's not that quiet, but it is quieter. Paula started trimming the areas around the hortus. Quiet, and 3 laughing emojis. So I'm all right. Quieter, I should say, rather than quiet time of the year. No interest in football. Are you a Scotland supporter then? Or you could say Italy at the moment, couldn't you, as well? And Butard from Ohio from Tom Smith as well. So, Anna, sorry, I did say Anna's got the questions and I started talking again. Sorry.
Yeah, we've got one with a picture from Katie. I did double check. I hadn't covered this one already, but I don't think I have. Looks like my rhubarb is growing flowers in November. What do I do? Cut the stalks off. If I leave it to go to seed, does the parent plant die?
Okay. Great question, because it'll happen here as well as back in England as well. So rhubarb does shoot a flower stem, and you should cut it off as soon as you see it, or as soon as possible. The plant won't die, but what you don't want is the plant to produce a flower stem, because it's going to produce all its energy and push all its energy into that. And what you want is the stems to have the energy. So snip it off at the bottom, it'll be fine. And if you've had a rhubarb that's gone to seed in the past, you'll know that it'll just grow back the next year as a normal rhubarb. They don't die off, but you don't want the flower stem. You're not growing them for the flowers.
Very good. Okay. No, so nothing good at all about a rhubarb flower.
No, because even if you get the seeds off it, they're not always very productive. And the rhubarb is so easy to split anyway. So you just put your 2 forks in it, and you can split them open and create 2 rhubarbs.
Oh, okay.
Not at this time of year, because you should be trying to force them on now. Especially back in the UK, you want to protect them from the frost. So you want to be packing straw around them and actually covering them to stop the light from getting to them. And that will force them on, force them to grow long stems.
Yeah.
And they'll come out white, and then early spring you take the cover off, and that's when they develop the colour and the flavour.
Okay. All
I
right.
do. I don't like rhubarb growing, but I'm from the Triangle, aren't I? So
From the Triangle?
yeah, it's a big thing where I come from in the north of England. It's the rhubarb triangle.
Okay. I've never heard of that before.
Google it later.
Okay, good. And Lee promises that won't get you into any trouble, Googling the rhubarb triangle. Are there other fruits or vegetables that benefit from forcing as well, Lee, while we're on the matter of forcing?
No, not really. Not the same way as rhubarb does. Not that I've come across. I'm trying to think now. You've got me thinking. No, you can do a very similar thing with strawberries. You can protect strawberries in England. You can protect them after Christmas if you pack them with straw as well. They produce more shoot stems if you do that, so it helps you to develop more strawberry plants. But it's not really for the fruit; it's more to develop more stems.
Okay, excellent stuff. All right, I think that is Katie, who is here as Facebook user. Katie, not a cat. And that's your first question there. So that's pretty clear with your rhubarb flowers. We have another as well, I think, don't we, Anna?
Yes, we have one from Pete here, I think. Our veg garden is a little overgrown. Any tips on spotting hidden garlic potatoes, I think that is, and beetroot?
Nice one, Pete. Thank you.
That's another good question, because garlic stems are this time of year, they're really thin and they look like a grass blade.
Yeah.
If you planted them in a line, then all you've got to do is find each end of the line, and then you can pretty much find them within the weeds. But unfortunately, it's just on your hands and knees and hand weeding. and being careful. But even if you pull them, if you pull them by mistake, you can always replant the garlic.
Yes.
So it won't mind being moved around so much. I've done it in the past where I put a line of garlic in and decided that I wanted more space or I wanted them in somewhere else. And I've just carefully hands in both sides and pull as much soil as you can out so you get all the under roots out. And they can be planted on somewhere else, they'll happily grow again.
Okay,
but if you do snap the leaf, that can cause a problem. So just be very careful with them.
Okay, yeah, go steady, go gently in the garden. You can replant that garlic. What about these other little hidden treasures then? And I'm not talking about the things that cats leave for you in the garden, but when you're digging over in this time of year, you might find, as Pete's saying here, potatoes and beetroots. Other times of the year, there might be a radish that you find, mightn't there? I mean, what can you replant most of those things, or will it be disruptive for some of them, if not all of them?
Well, I turned our beds over 3 weeks ago, and I found loads of potatoes that I'd not found when I actually dug the plants up.
Yeah,
and they just went straight into the kitchen because they were absolutely fantastic. So any potatoes you find, if you know if they've gone soft, you just throw them away. But any potatoes you leave in, you can use them any time of the year. I know some guys in England, they grow a potato, they grow their lines of potatoes, and the last ones go in, and they virtually just leave it. And around Christmas time, when they turn over the beds for the frost, it's like an extra harvest.
okay.
So if you just leave them in the ground, they'll stay there quite happily.
All right, but no tips for actually finding these hidden treasures. I mean, they're hidden because you can't. They've got no foliage showing, and there's not a lot you can do about that. I don't suppose, is there?
I suppose not so much with the potatoes. That's just pot luck. Is when you're turning the bed over, you'll find them. Unless you leave them till next year, till the new shoots start coming out, and then they become your potato plants.
Yes.
But the problem with that is the crop you're going to get off it are only going to be small potatoes, because you want to use a big spud as your main seed potato.
Yeah.
So the little ones that you leave in, they don't really develop into much.
Okay.
Radishes, they do the same, but because they're more of a surface plant, so they caress the soil.
Yeah.
They tend to get destroyed by the slugs this time of year. So if you've left any radishes in or anything like that, the slugs will get them before you find them.
Oh, okay. All right. So there is that what Lee said there, Pete, and Louise is adding to it. Morris is back in England, so send him our best when you next speak to him, Louise. Evening, Pete and Diane. Potato leaves will have wilted by now, so look for the base of the wilt. Beetroot, look for the red-green leaf coloration. So a few tips for you there from Lee and Louise tonight. Fantastic. Pete's saying an interesting thing here to Tom. Oh, we should probably start with that for context. I was talking with some Benfiquistas, that's Benfica supporters, I think, this weekend, and we wound up talking about bananas, of course, specifically how radioactive they are. So there was a football gardening connection. Brilliant, Tom. Thank you for that. However, Diane can't eat bananas due to the potassium and radioactivity, which means all the milk chocolate banana pieces from Lidl are mine. Well, good for you, Pete. But what is this about radioactivity in bananas? Should we be concerned, Lee?
It's the first time I've ever heard of it. Of radioactivity, no idea. I know they're high in potassium, which is why a lot of people enjoy them.
Yeah.
And I've shown it in the show in the past. One of my customers has a massive blue pot with a banana tree in it. The banana tree is now about 12, 13 foot tall, and that's got a great bunch on it at the moment. So they're growing happily here in just outside of Lisbon. But I've never heard of radioactive bananas. That's a new one on me.
Pete might know a bit more about that. Okay, excellent stuff. Thank you for that football and gardening connection. And I'm sure John is already working on a football and gardening pun as we speak. Let's see what he can come up with in the next half hour. No, he's not going to go there. He is refusing to go there. Fair enough. Okay, we understand. Okay, another question direct from Katie tonight. And here's the visual. Thank you for the visuals on the rhubarb flowers as well. Not sure if we can see these terribly well, but this is disease. Okay. This is a familiar sight, I think, in gardens. And the words that went with this were, okay, the plant is called senna. Is that where Senecott comes from, I wonder? Diseased plant question. The plants are growing in potting compost, and they've received lots of rain for over a week recently. Portugal, this is very specific. Thank you for this, Katie. Portugal, Central Zone 10B. Does everyone else know their area that specifically? So you're in Zone 10B. What do you think is the problem here with the senna plant? Can you see that clearly enough, Lee, to make a comment?
I really can't see it that well, to be honest. But I know that with the heavy rain we've had, if your pots don't have real good drainage on them, you're gonna get root rot and you're gonna get fungal infections, especially this time of year.
Right.
And we have had a particular lot of rain over the last 4 weeks.
Yes.
I know we have here in the Lisbon area, the ground is sodden at the moment.
Okay.
So I'd be checking your drainage on your pots. Even if you put, like I do, you put a lot of terracotta in, or you put a lot of the drainage balls in the base of it. Eventually, they do clog up, especially if you're using compost and not a mixture of compost and soil. They clog up over time. So it's always a good idea to just take the plant out of the pot, give it a shake, put some more drainage stones in and put it back in.
Okay. And is there anything else? Sorry, Katie. It does sound like that's a root rot to answer your question there.
It happens a lot with bulbs as well. It happens a lot with bulbs. It happens a lot with the seasonal plants that we get. They tend to all go with root rot in badly drained pots. It's a problem with pots.
And unlike a fish, plants rot from the root up often. Then, by the sound of what you're saying, rather from the head down. With a plant, you might see the last symptoms of rot, as we're seeing with Katie's pictures there, but it might have started at the root. Oh, we got a freeze from Mr.
You hear me?
Yeah, can you hear you again? Yeah,
okay.
Again.
Yeah, it really depends on what plant it is. Some plants will rot from the actual sort of when they make connection with the soil.
Yes.
And others will rot from the roots up.
Oh, okay.
It really depends on the plant, and especially the compost that you're using in the pot makes a big difference.
Yes.
I found here in Portugal that using just pure compost is not good in pots because it retains water. It retains too much water.
Okay. All right. Okay. Apparently, with these, the leaves turn to skeletons, which could be quite a nice thing at Halloween, but not now. And then they drop off after that. And I'm not familiar with the senna. Are you familiar with the senna plant, Lee?
Not really. I've not really dealt with it much. I know it, but I've never had to really work with it or notice anything about it. I've never took any notice of it.
Right.
If you Google it, they're actually quite nice plants. They do look good in pots, but they're not mine. They're not my thing. Not something I'd recommend.
Fair enough. Okay.
Well, back in England, they've always been a bit too temperamental.
Right.
They get caught with the frost and they've gone.
Okay.
It's impossible to maintain in England.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're going into some technicalities here. Zone 10B is a climatic zone, very popular terminology in the USA as it is such a massive country with multiple climate zones. Thank you for that, Louise. And bananas, going back to radioactive bananas, have a tiny amount of radioactive potassium. And one medium banana has 0.1 of microsieverts of radiation. It would take eating about 4 million bananas in one go to get sick. So that's a little bit unlikely, I think, there. But that would keep you pretty regular, I think, with all that fiber as well. That would be quite a tall order. Thank you very much, Tom and Louise, for that input there. Anna, are you seeing anything else coming in on the chat?
Don't know. There was unless we just covered it. The only recent question I saw was from Paul and Louise was is a fruit tree if it's too tall to pick the fruits, or is it just a tree?
Very good. Okay. Who was that?
That was Paul and Louise who sent that one in.
I see. Yes. Okay. But that is an interesting question, though, isn't it? Back to basics. What is the difference between fruit and veg, then, technically?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person, not a cooking show. I refer to which one's the common one that I always get told off for? Is it strawberries that are a veg, not a fruit, or something like that? I don't know. It's something to do with seeds, isn't it? It's something to do with the seeds.
Tomatoes, I think.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, that's it. Tomato.
Cucumbers. Yeah, cucumbers. That's right. Cucumbers as well. Okay, very interesting. I think Louise and Pete will have something to say on that.
I think it's down to the way that the seeds are stored or the way you access the seeds, I'm not really sure. I've never done
Whether
myself.
they're inside or outside. Yeah, that's
I think
right. That's why strawberries are an exception. John's coming in on this. Come on, John. Pub
I
quiz.
think this was to do with the height of the tree, not to do with
Oh, yeah, John,
whether
go
something's
back
a
to
fruit
the
or a
question.
vegetable.
Yeah. Should we go back to the question?
Yeah.
We've talked about this in the past. I always say when you're pruning a fruit tree, you should consider your biggest consideration should be access to the fruit, if that's what they're there for. I have one of my customers has a beautiful avocado tree, but it's massive. There's no chance to get the avocados off without risking life and limb. So that is kept as a display tree. So it's there for its shape and its look. Very rarely get fruit off it until the wind blows.
Yeah.
So I suppose, because you could very easily grow because plum trees are beautiful. So you could grow a great plum tree or a cherry tree purely for the fact that you wanted the tree and not the fruit off it. So I think it goes back to the original comment that every gardener makes. A plant in the wrong place is a weed, and a plant in the right place is there because you desire that look.
Yes.
So if you're going for a plum that's climbing up a wall, which always looks gorgeous, and you're not interested in plums, then it's there as a ornamental plant.
Yeah.
But it's the same with like growing back with cherry trees. Back in the UK, we planted loads of bird cherries in the late 80s, early 90s, and the fruit isn't really edible. It's not nice, but it holds its flowers longer and better, and the flowers look pretty. So it's a cherry tree that's just for show.
Okay. Excellent stuff. All right, brilliant. Thank you for that. And Pete is saying that fruit has seeds in the middle, so that's why technically a strawberry probably isn't a fruit. Okay, I've just had a note in. We have nits. I shouldn't have read that out loud. Okay. Anyone know what to do with nits? This is a gardening show, not a child rearing show. Okay. Well, so it's kind of like an animal husbandry question almost, isn't it? Okay. All right.
There's a great mousse that's available.
A great what? Mousse?
Yeah, an air mousse. You'll be all right. You've got no hair.
Exactly. I'm fine. It's not a problem for me, Lee.
It's for the kids.
No, get off my hair. All right, get off both my hairs there. All right, thank you very much. Good evening. Morris is tuned. Do you mind? Stop harvesting. It's like two primates on the screen for a minute there. Good evening to the gardening team. Morris, so good of you to find out about us in Portugal, then go back to the UK and still tune in. So thank you so much, Morris. Really appreciate that. I loved your chili picture from last week with the pound coin. Back in the UK now, even mowed the 3 lawns today. So, okay, I take it all back about things being quieter in the garden at the moment, or quiet anyway. Excellent stuff. Fruit seed in the middle then. That's a good guide, isn't it? But notwithstanding what Lee was saying about what you use it for and why it's in your garden as well. Going back to radiation as well. There's a term for this, banana equivalent dose to quantify tiny amounts of radiation exposure. Excellent, Tom. Thank you for joining us this evening as well. I'm getting messages here. Oh, tea tree. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Thought you said Boris. No, I said Morris, not Boris. Relax with the triggering with Boris and football tonight, John, I think. Got you 2 ways there this evening. And good evening, Pie. Isn't that lovely? From Louise to Morris as well. And the OLP's in Hello, Fellow Gardeners. Let's stay with Louise for a moment because he's got a video and 2 pictures to share. These aren't yours, are they, Louise? But isn't that nice to see? Isn't that beautiful? The sheep are by the fence. There's some lambs. And is it the Sierra Estrella range in the background there? That's fantastic. And they are called Natal and Pasqua. Is that the name of the neighbors or of the sheep that we're seeing there? We've also got a beautiful picture of your well. That's your big well there. And with all this rainfall, it would appear the big well is almost full, an increase in volume by 20 cubic meters in 4 weeks. That's good going. Very good going. Good for you. Pleased to hear that. That's going to be useful, isn't it? And a video as well. This is a stream that dried up last May and it's running again. This is, if you need to go to the toilet, this won't help.
25th of November 2022. The stream is very healthy, as you can hear. and the wells are almost full.
John, everything okay there? Who doesn't like a healthy stream?
I
Okay, very
do.
good.
I love like the sound of water
Yeah, it's beautiful.
moving down the stream or the river like that.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a lovely scene there you've got, Louise. Is that in your garden? Fantastic. Okay, silkworms, moths. What's that about? I haven't got them as well in my hair, have I? I'm not sure why this is being asked this evening here, but have you got a comment on silk moths and worms, Lee?
It is actually that time of year for it over here. You'll see the silkworm. It's not quite the same as what we get in the States or what we get in England. The ones in England are more of a grey, and they go for understory plants, where here you tend to get them on the top of fruit trees and tall bushes. There's loads of sprays for it. There's loads of light chemicals that you can buy over the counter. Little white irritating bugs.
Okay.
But they do no real harm. The first heavy rainfall seems to get rid of them.
Yeah.
But a bit of wash-up liquid does the same as what you can buy over the counter. And what you buy over the counter is like sort of €15 for a small box.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And it's only the processionaries you really need to worry about, isn't it? Getting off your land.
They want murdering, don't they?
Yes, okay.
Yeah, they're horrendous. I've had another a neighbour of a customer has been round asking advice the other week when I was there. She'd lost her dog to the mould.
Oh no.
Last spring. I didn't hear about it till the other week, but yeah, last spring they've come down the tree. And she's considering moving 3 trees out of the garden because of them.
Really? They're pines that are especially attracted to them.
If you stand back and look up into the tree, I could count 6 nests just with my bad eyesight.
Yikes!
So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So be careful with those. And Lee's told you what to do with the silk moths and worms. There are 2 good museums in Castelo Branco, which was on the Silk Road in Portugal: the Embroidery Museum and the Silk Museum. That sounds fantastic. The positive side of silkworms. They still grow mulberry trees and produce silk in Castelo Branco. Did you know that, Lee?
No, I didn't. I didn't know they actually did grow to produce silk here in Portugal.
Right.
I thought it was more of a
Far Eastern.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Pete, that's news to Pete as well. Well, I have to pay them a visit. That sounds fantastic. But it's not a haberdashery show. It's a gardening show.
I would like to know how to do it. I wonder if it's done under polytunnels, if it's done undercover, rather than out in the fields. That'd be interesting. I'm going to Google it later. I'll go down the silk rabbit hole tonight. So have a look at it.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, if you know any more about that, Louise, it'd be good to know. Morris saying hi to you. And that stream is at the bottom of the land. Isn't that lovely to have a little wander down to the bottom of the land and sit by in a contemplative way by the running water that John likes there? Is this a joke? How do you dissuade caterpillars? I actually think that's a genuine question.
Yeah, it will be a genuine question, but it really depends. We have, as people that watch are aware, we try to encourage butterflies into the garden.
Yes.
So I only really keep the caterpillars off the veg garden. I tend to leave them everywhere else and suffer the consequence of it because I like the butterflies so much. But dissuading them's an impossibility. The only way you can do it is to catch them at egg form and either pluck that leaf off and destroy it, or wait till they become caterpillars, then squish them with your fingers.
Oh dear, okay.
But I've not got a bad word to say about butterflies and caterpillars. As long as they're at the veg patch, I just let them go.
Okay, that's great. That's Kate asking that question, who I think is not spending enough or as much time as she would like in the garden. And what are those weeds here in Portugal, Lee, that you'll be very familiar with that have the little tubular yellow flower? Looks like
we've talked about this before. It's one of my favourite weeds, and everybody else hates them.
Yes,
they appeared everywhere. All of a sudden, the last 2 weeks, they are everywhere. And it's in England, it's wood sorrel, but here in Portugal, it's just sorrel.
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 Sorrel. Oh, it's sorrel. Okay. Wow. Okay.
It's edible.
Yeah.
Tastes like apple.
Oh, okay. I think Anna's got a recollection of that. Did you grow that at Hannah's as well, then, Anna? the sorrel
I
leaf?
don't think so. I think any recollection I had of the name, I think it was possibly from probably not best sort of mentioning without knowing what kind of show this is, but it was on. I think I first heard of it on MasterChef, but I haven't actually grown it.
You're
Well,
forgiven, Anna. It's me that just gets told off for that. Don't worry.
There is a type that's grown in the UK to be produced as a salad leaf that goes in with salads.
Yeah.
But the wild stuff here is very similar to the wild stuff back in the UK.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's a bit of a nuisance.
Yeah. Okay. Louise not a fan by the look of it there, and I don't think Kate is either.
If you get it in flower beds and rose beds, just hoeing it through regularly,
Yeah.
will kill it off because it grows on a little white tuber.
Okay.
So these little white seeds will produce a dozen shoots.
Yes.
So all you've got to do is just drain the energy out of it.
Yeah.
So trying to actually pick them out is impossible.
Right. Okay. Hoeing would be best.
Yeah, the hoeing's the best way. But if you get it in your lawn, unfortunately, this time of year, there's just nothing you can do about it. You're just going to accept it as a seasonal weed, and it'll die off when it's ready.
And how devastating is it? I mean, is it mainly a visual problem, or is it actually a serious problem to have? If it's such a kind of a weak root, is that going to be causing a lot of trouble to the rest of your plants?
No, not at all. They take out very little energy from the soil.
Okay.
They actually grow in England because it's called the wood soil. They actually grow in really poor conditions. So they grow on the edge of woodlands and along hedgeways. Is the best place to find them in the UK. But here in Portugal, they are just everywhere, from the motorway verges to the best kept rose beds.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, if it's in a really nice bed, I spray it off with chemical.
Yeah.
It's a quick and easy way to get rid of it.
Yes.
But in our own garden, I just hold the beds through every second week for the first 2 years, and we don't have any more of it anymore.
Very good.
I've got rid of it just with a constant attacking with the hoe.
There you go. Interesting fact here. This is fantastic, Louise. Thank you. The altarpiece, Lee, in Manchester Cathedral. I don't know how many times you would have visited Manchester Cathedral. However,
For once.
just the once. What, for a presentation, was it? With the Scouts?
No, I was supposed to go by school, I believe.
Yes, okay. And the altarpiece there, my friend, in the UK, in Manchester, of course, was embroidered in Castelo Branco with local silk. How about that? What a lovely connection. Portugal,
Fantastic. There you go.
And a UK connection there. And Pete's enjoying that fact, both the origin and the fact that it is in a public space. I'm Manchester. And the fact that it's in a public space in Manchester and hasn't been half-inched is also to Pete as well. A peripheral. Did you want to take this one, Anna?
Yeah. This one's come in. I was trying to buy a bird feeder to hang from a tree in the garden here in Pombal, but have not yet found a place where I can buy one. Any suggestions?
Don't bother.
Don't bother.
Don't bother. The birds here are just so rude. No matter what you throw at them, they just won't eat it.
Yeah.
So I'd rather go for a bird feeder. Go for a water container or a bird bath. You'll get far more activity from that in the summer months. And it's not just good for the birds, it's good for the butterflies and the bees. So flip the idea around, stop trying to feed them and water them instead.
Yeah.
But one of my customers out in Pambal area, he's having great success feeding chicken hearts and chicken necks to the crows and the other birds around there, and they're getting quite popular. They're genuinely coming in for the meat.
Yeah,
but he's putting bread out for them as well, and they're taking both the bread and the meat. They're making a sandwich. Yeah, well, no, he's having really good success, and he's getting regular visits now. So that's quite a different way of going.
But that could be a bit. That could go a number of dodgy sort of ways, couldn't it? I mean, he's attracting the carrion birds, right, who are like a bit of rotting flesh, which is why they're like in a chicken neck or a bit of offal in the garden, right? Well,
you say that, but all the small birds, they will also eat insects and bits of meat. Oh. So depending how fine you cut it up, but obviously you've got to worry about bringing in other creatures as well.
The rats.
The rodents, yeah. But he's got a hard surface, and when he puts his feed out, they come in straight away and they clean the hard surface. So
Yes.
it's monitoring how much you're putting out. You're not overfeeding. You're not putting too much out. It's getting left behind.
Okay, very good. Yeah, you got to keep an eye on that, haven't you? You might forgive this, you might not. Talking about meat and bread, it was Piri Piri week last week on the Good Morning Portugal show. This week it's Bifana week. We didn't get around to Katy Piri or Fred Piri, but we have just got this in. Bifana, the vampire slayer. Should we move on? Okay, and
Bifana is my lunch of choice.
yeah. Okay, so you're happy with that. We've got Bifana Trump as well. We've got a few we're working on. But going back to the bird spotting and the twitching, Lee. I know, because I know you like a bit of bird spotting.
I briefly heard, because I was busy this morning, and I briefly heard your chat this morning. I saw a bird that I'd never seen before last week, and I took a photograph on my mobile phone.
Yep. And
I put it on the Natural History Facebook group for Portugal, and it's a black bird with with white feathers in it. But this one was particularly white; had a lot of white in it.
Wow!
So I got quite a lot of interest from that. A lot of people letting me know what it was.
Can you share that? Because this is what James was talking about this morning. He was on the train from Lisbon to Porto, and he just said it was great. He was seeing a lot of bird life along the way, which you do by the tracks, don't you? Because sometimes it's like it's wild land where humans aren't going. So I'm guessing it attracts the bird life. But we were talking about the possibility of a Gumpers Twitcher group. Do you think there's mileage in that?
I don't know if I could be involved in that. I'm too cool for that, surely. No, it's something I'd enjoy, actually. Yeah. Because I'm not a bird. What do you call it? I'm not a twitcher, but I do like to see things while I'm out. And I owned a lot of falcons, and I was into falcon when I was younger, so that stuck with me.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested in it. I'll send you the picture.
Sort of giving life to the complete northern Kes stereotype there, Lee, as though every northern lad had a kestrel.
I had ferrets from an early age. I'm typical.
Ferrets as well.
Ferrets are birds of prey as pets. Yeah,
being chased by Brian Glover across a football pitch. Fantastic. Okay, yeah. So Pete's saying, make one, Matty. Going back or staying with birds, but moving you away from a bird feeder. I think is what Lee's trying to do, but Pete's suggesting that you make one anyway. I mean, that could be fun. We had a dead robin on our terrace this morning, probably flew into a window. That's sad, isn't it? I've seen robins. The robins are returning. Your pet robin's back, isn't it, Lee?
My pet robin's back. I've got a great photograph of a kingfisher from the other week that flew into one of the customers' windows and died.
Oh, dear.
Well, when I was back in the UK, I was obviously, I'm into photography as well. Yeah. And I spent weeks chasing kingfishers up and down rivers. And I got the best picture of a kingfisher in Portugal after it smashed into a window.
They are so beautiful, aren't they? And it's such a delight to see them because they're so fast as well. You do see them on the rivers here in Portugal, but yeah, I guess that would have been an easy way to capture it.
They're very seasonal here in Portugal. They're definitely a winter bird. What we talked about the other week, they're a migratory bird, so that you don't see them here during the summer. You get them on the coast. Okay, so it flips it on its head. In the UK, in the summer, they're on the rivers, and in the winter, they go to the coastlines, to the estuaries, and to the open waters. But here in Portugal, it's the other way around.
Yes.
In the summertime, they're either on the coast or they've gone up to France.
Yeah.
And then in the winter, they're on the rivers. So the breeding population of kingfishers in Portugal is very low, but the migratory population is really high.
Okay, well, next on my list is a flamingo. I want to see a flamingo on the Obidos.
There's loads in Lisbon.
It's very well for you to say that in Lisbon. I've not seen him in the Obidos Lagoon yet, and that's where I want to see him. Bifana is awesome. Stay with Bifana. You tune in. We need some Bifana-based puns, please, Pete, in the morning. Ours this morning were cooked in red wine. UB40 connection there. Anything else we've seen in the chat? Any questions, any comments? John, Anna, Lee, you quite like the idea of, I think, a weekly tip. What's going in, what's coming out, what needs to be pruned. What are your tips for this week?
Tips for this week. The oranges are just becoming edible at the moment, and we've got a few of our branches are really heavy, so I'm having to clear some weight off the branches from the orange trees. That's a big thing this week.
Okay.
The weeds are racing through on the veg bed. So it was rotivated 3 weeks ago, and I had to weed it again today. So to avoid peat problem, maintain that clear soil on the veg bed.
Yeah.
What else is there? Grass is racing away. But we've also getting weeds coming up in all the grasses and all the lawns. So that's either a hand weeding job or a spot treatment with herbicide.
Yes.
The fruit trees at the moment are also suffering with like a small mite, like a red brick mite. So keep an eye out for that. Go and check them, make sure they're clear. Jasmine is a good time for pruning back on your jasmine now as well, and your bougainvillea, if you're here in Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've gone into kind of a dormancy stage. So it's a good time to be hacking them back because they've grown wild over this summer. They've been great. Make sure all your irrigation systems turned off completely because we don't want to waste any water unnecessarily. Because a lot of people are now getting their water bills, and it's been sort of accumulated over the last 3 or 4 months. So people are getting massive water bills at the moment and realise how much water they've wasted on the garden.
Ah, yes, yes.
It's that time of year, unfortunately, just before Christmas.
Okay.
And I've got our first, the name's gone out of my head. The red flower you buy at Christmas.
Poinsettia.
I've got our first poinsettia in, so that's in the house. They're just coming on the market. They're being sold in shops, but don't buy them yet because by Christmas they'll have gone.
Okay. Well, don't buy them yet because it's still November, for goodness sake.
But they're just coming to the garden centres now, and I got one as a freebie last week.
Right,
so it's
enough.
why it's in the house. I want the paid cash for it.
All right. So I'm liking this. Jobs for the week, maybe we'll call it.
And if you're intending to get a Christmas tree, make sure you're either going in and paying a deposit on one now, or you're going in booking one now, because Christmas trees aren't as easy to get in Portugal as they are in England.
All right, superb, great idea, Lee. And this of course could be our little viral bit. If we segment this from the show, jobs for the week, what needs to go in, what needs to come out, and what else needs doing in the garden.
You need to give me more note. If you want to do that, give me more notice for the next show, and I'll make a bit of
no, I'm not putting you on the spot now. I'm just thinking that'd be a lovely segment to cut from the show and send far and wide around the world to help gardeners everywhere. And on that note, it's 7 o'clock. Those of us interested in football will be making our way to the nearest Portuguese television. However, last few comments, tuned in late to hear about dead birds and bifanas. I got here just in time, says T-Duck. When the raining stopped here in Pombal, or when it stops, I'll get my strimmer out and trim the weeds. It'll only, if it rains some more, like it has done in my garden, it'll just be growing again. What do you call 2 rows of vegetables? A dual cabbage way. Come on, that's good. Also, lemons are heavy due to the rain. Limes should be picked and pruned now. Prep your hortas with a good compost, fertilizer ready for veg planting. Stop irrigating, just as Lee said there. Be careful with overwatering or wasting any water. And I was a first liker today, says Matty, to like monitor T-Duck. Great show tonight, guys. Thank you very much, Pete. That just about does it. Good luck, Portugal, tonight. We won't be here next week, but we will be here in a fortnight's time with the head gardener, Lee McGrady, John Agger, and Anna. Thank you to all of you and to everybody who tuned in this evening. Good job. Bye for now. Força Portugal!